So Mark, I know I asked you before about the schedule. I just have scheduled them to the sunrise and sunset here in Florida, but what's the right way to set my schedule on these LED lights?
So the first thing to keep in mind is what works for your lifestyle and what are your preferences. If you're an early morning person, maybe you work out of the house and you want to see the tank when you get up, then have the tank lights come on when you're getting ready to walk out the door, when you first come down the stairs. The catch to this, which is what's really nice about LEDs, is just because they're on doesn't mean they have to be on 100% or their max intensity of the day. Have them on at 2% at a low setting so you can at least see your fish, you can watch the corals start to expand, but you're not blasting the tank with light. Then the other piece of that is, when do you want the lights to go off? That's going to depend on when you come home, when you go to bed. There's some give and take. So let's say you want the lights to be on at 7 o'clock. They're starting to come on. So as you first come up downstairs, you can look at your tank and you can see what's going on. But you know you go to bed at 10:30 at night. We don't necessarily want our lights on for those 15 hours. So ideally I'm shooting for 12 to 14-ish hours as a max photo period from when they're on to when they're off.
So I'm not concerned about summer equinox, and I don't have to worry about, oh, the days are shorter in the winter. Or...
Do you want to enjoy your tank less in the winter and enjoy it more in the summer?
Well, no, I don't. But I just have in my head that I need to replicate nature as much as possible to give everything its best chance.
You can if you want to geek out, but heck, in the winter, I want to be seeing my tank more to cheer me up when it's dreary outside and you hit that winter doldrum. So
you mentioned ramping. My lights, they just came out of the box where they had a setting. It says sunrise, daylight, sunset. What do you do about ramping the lights?
Another nice thing about LEDs is you can ramp them up and ramp them down. And the cool thing is your fish and your corals will respond to this. They'll start to inflate as the lights get bigger, and as the lights go down at night, they'll start to deflate. Your fish will start to hide. I can literally watch my fish put themselves to bed. You can watch everyone start to bed themselves out. Whereas before, like with T5s and halides, you turn them off, everyone's like, ping, and they go run away like in your freshwater tank.
I have already experienced watching exactly what you say, watching as it goes to moonlight at night. It's very cool. Mm-hmm. And then when I go to bed at night, I walk into my quarantine tank and it goes from on to off, you know, and I feel kind of bad because I'm like, well, these guys, they get the nice life in the quarantine tank that doesn't ramp on those little built-in lights.
One of the keys to a longer photo period, over 12 hours, is we have a longer ramp. The maximum intensity we're going to hold for a shorter time. So let's say you have a 14-hour photo period. We might have max intensity from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock, about 6 to 8 hours-ish, even less for that max intensity. But if we're building up to that max intensity over 4 or 5 hours, that we have a longer photo period, then that's useful. So this is a way to get up early and have some light in your tank, and then let's say you come home at 7, we're then going to run a slow ramp down to the off setting.
All right, but my work's right there.
Don't make everyone jealous, Jimmy. And let's face it, how much work are you really getting done now that that's in your office?
Oh, that's awesome.
If you're a night owl, we got you. If you go to bed at 11 p.m. and don't plan on getting up till later in the morning like Jimmy here, or you don't care about seeing your tank lit up first thing, shift your photo period to later in the day. Lights start ramping up at 10 a.m., maximum intensity from 1 to 6 p.m., then start ramping down at 6 p.m., ending around 10:30. Easy. What about the intensity of your lights? If you have lower power LEDs in a deeper tank, then start at 50% intensity and go up from there if needed. If you have higher power lights, then start at 30% and work your way up in 5% weekly increments.
These lights weren't terribly expensive. They have a lot of adjustability on an app, but I see some LED lights out there, and there's things that I like about them with their profile or cooling or whatever, but the prices are all over the place. Mm-hmm. They're all over the place. Mm-hmm. I mean, some are very, very expensive. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between an LED light that costs $200 and one that costs $1,000?
So there are going to be lots of things. One, a more expensive light is likely going to have more LEDs in it and produce more light. Crank out 5 times more light than this can, which can be useful in certain applications like my tank that's deeper or wider. Or some people just want a more powerful light over the tank. They think I'm going to buy the light once and then they can keep it for a couple of years as they get a bigger tank. You can always ramp them up.
Sure.
So that's a reason to do it too.
Okay, yeah.
The other reason is there's some customer support in the back end. You call and get someone, and if you need a replacement, do they overnight it to you, or they say, hey, we're waiting on another container from China. It's going to be a month or two.
Yeah.
Can you get in touch with a live person, or are you stuck with a chat bot or email? There's some give and take there, and some of it's the app development and the app support.
Yeah.
How controllable is it through the app? Have they used the lights on a coral farm and really tweaked the spectrum and given you that as a preset that you can have because you're buying that light?
Fortunately, my support line is one number for everything in my tank. It's that guy. So,
I mean, the other piece of it too is some of these higher end LED companies are based out of the USA. They're hiring Americans. They're not just bringing it over from overseas. They may be, some of the manufacturing there, but then they're bringing it to the US, which is creating USA jobs. So this, where you fall on the price value spectrum is different for everyone.
Right.
I would rather pay more, arguably get more, because you're not going to get more when you pay less. That doesn't mean a lower cost light isn't good. You may be willing to give up some of those features, or you may have a smaller tank where you don't need that high output, or you don't care. You just want to slap on a light. You don't really care how it performs. You need something that gets you going.
The reason I ask all that is, you know, I'm going to need another light. And do I just get another one of these?
So one argument for keeping the same light is the light output is the same.
Yeah.
One light may call 14K setting. It looks a certain way, you get a different brand, it looks a different way. It shouldn't necessarily be that way because per se the light temperature should be the same, but how you perceive the lights, the LEDs in there can be different.
Right.
So if you keep the same brand, then you're going to have a consistent light look across the tank.
Yeah, and you could get the same color temperature, but then it's how is it diffused, how is it focused. Those things come into play. That's why I'd probably put just another one of these current lights up there.
2.
Put 2 more on here?
Yep. One here, one there. We can start with one in the center. So what we get, help fill in this dark spot in the center.
Yeah.
There's lots of options here. The nice thing is you can always scale it up or you can scale it down.